everyone, today I have my hands on the brand new Sony A1 II and we're going to be testing this camera out for both photo and video in the field to see how it performs. We have so much to get through, so let's get started. Let's dive into some autofocus examples to start off with. The A1 II is a full frame 50.1 megapixel camera and shares the same sensor as the A1. The A1 II has had an autofocus overhaul, which was much needed to catch this camera series up to speed with the rest of Sony's lineup. It now has the same AI processing chip that you'll find in the A9 III. In terms of autofocus, a couple of things have stayed the same. Both the A1 and A1 II share 759 AF points and the ability to shoot up to 30 frames per second with an electronic shutter. However, the A1 II now has more subject recognition autofocus modes to choose from in both stills and video. These AF modes include human, animal, bird, insect, car, train, airplane, and one feature I'm really excited about because I would love for this to be added into future Sony cameras is auto subject recognition. This mode will automatically detect what subject you are shooting, and this is something I have mentioned wanting in a previous review video, and I'm so glad it's finally here. It can be a bit cumbersome to always have to change what your AF mode is, especially when you're capturing a wide variety of subjects, and I'm really looking forward to this function being in more of Sony's lineup. But how well does it work? When in auto subject recognition, you do have to wait a moment for it to register or choose what the subject is, but once locked in, autofocus is extremely fast and sticky, which is no surprise for Sony. I do find their human autofocus mode is the strongest out of all the options. It really doesn't skip a beat, regardless of what you throw at it. My models were not cooperating today, they just didn't want to run around for us, but I included some of the fastest movement we could get out of them for these tests. Every once in a while, I noticed it had trouble finding the subject at all in auto. Sometimes I would need to select the specific subject mode, and other times it just wouldn't find the subject at all. This could come down to the fact that this is a pre-production unit, but it could also be that this new auto recognition mode might need some tweaks and updates in the future to get it working more seamlessly. Something worth keeping in mind. By the way, thank you to Sony Australia for getting this camera in my hands early. This video is not sponsored. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's head to our photo shoot. Could I get you standing like just here in front of this bush, please? That looks so cool. I love it. You're just so matchy with the...
Oh yeah, that's cool.
You blend in.
Yeah.
So I'll start off with kind of like cropping here-ish. You can move around like as much as you want. I love like very flowy kind of posing, and like hunching as well is cool too. Oh, I love that. I'm going to be sharing 100% crops of the unedited, straight out of camera images I'm taking today. So make sure you're watching this video in 4K so you can see all the details. And afterwards, I'll have my edited version. I'm on a zoom lens, so I'm kind of like getting random wide and close-up shots as well. It's beautiful. I'm using my Havana preset pack to edit this photo shoot, and I'll leave the preset link down below if you wanted to see more with it. I'm also using a few different lenses, starting off with the new 28 to 70mm f2 GM, which I have also uploaded a review video of tonight, and I'll leave that linked in the description if you haven't watched it yet. Sony have two flagship cameras now, the A1 II and the A9 III, so I want to talk about some of the main differences and considerations between the two if you're trying to decide which one is right for you. The biggest differences we want to take a look at are the sensors, shooting speeds, and the megapixel count, as they will really help determine the camera's use case. First, we have the A9 III with its global shutter sensor compared to the A1 II, which has a stacked sensor. This means with the A9 III, you won't get any rolling shutter or subject warping, and it's always 100% blackout free for stills. The A1 II has the same 1 millisecond sensor readout speed as the A1, which allows you to shoot blackout free when using it in electronic shutter mode. Cool. You could like lean your arm maybe against this. Actually feeling that arm, so I shoot like, yeah, because I want to get the green. Yeah, that's cool. And could you try one as well? If you wanted to like lean your elbow up there, you can kind of like rest your... Throughout this shoot, I am changing between a mechanical and electronic shutter. I feel like it'd be cool if we tried to do like a walking one. So I want to try and get you like mid-pace. All right, when you're ready. The A9 III is 24 megapixels compared to the A1 II, which is 50.1 megapixels. This gives you more wiggle room when it comes to cropping in post, or even giving you the option to use your camera in APS-C mode. So I do have the A9 III with me as well. I'm gonna get a comparison shot between this and the A1 II so we can see the differences. And I'm gonna use the 85mm f1.4 GM2. Lastly, we have shooting speeds. The A9 III is capable of shooting up to 120 frames per second compared to the A1 II, which can shoot 30 frames per second in electronic shutter. Essentially, the A9 III prioritizes shooting speeds over resolution, whereas the A1 II prioritizes resolution over shooting speeds. Do you want to try some? Maybe like a little over the shoulder thing could be cool. The next question you might have is, should you upgrade your A1? Or if you want a Sony flagship camera, would the A1 now be enough? Or should you spend a bit more and go for the A1 II? Let's take a look. The A1 and A1 II share the same sensor, so as far as image quality goes, they are extremely similar. So I'm gonna get a comparison shot. I have the 85 GM2 on right now, and I'm gonna get a comparison between the A1 and the A1 II. The A1 II has added pre-capture for electronic shutter mode, and it works the same as it does on the A9 III. Pre-capture is when the shutter is half pressed, the camera starts recording images in a buffer, and once the shutter is fully pressed, it saves a set number of frames that were captured just before the shutter was released. So this is helpful to make sure you don't miss fast-moving moments if you don't have super fast reflexes. Just like the A9 III, you can choose how many frames it captures up to 1 second before you fully press the shutter. 85 time. No, it's just I always do green and I'm like, here I am again. But it's pretty, like, what am I gonna do about it? Yeah, let's just full send it green, why not? Yeah. It'd be cool if we did a shot of you walking towards me. You can walk a bit slower than you were before. Cool. I also spent some time testing out the buffer. I used an Angelbird AV Pro CF Express A card. In uncompressed RAW and JPEG to a single card, I was able to shoot 80 images before the buffer starts to slow down. Just to clarify, when I say slows down, you can continue shooting, it's just at a slower rate as the buffer is offloading to the card. I stop when I get to this point as I want to test out the buffer during the maximum shooting speeds of the camera. Looks so nice. So continuing on, in uncompressed only, I was able to shoot about 100 images before the buffer slows down. In lossless compression large, which is about the same quality as uncompressed, I was able to capture 330 images before the buffer slows down. And most importantly, in compressed RAW, which works at the full speed of 30 FPS, I was able to shoot 800 photos. Yep, 800 before the buffer starts to slow down a bit. So that's very, very impressive considering these are 50 megapixel images and not the fastest CF cards money can buy. And like this, the speed sign. Could we do one if you like kind of bring your shoulder in a little bit? Yeah, beautiful. So I'm gonna switch over to my GM35 1.4. I feel like I can't do a lens review without it. A camera review. This one I'm gonna be kind of closer up. Overall, I would say the biggest upgrade to the A1 II is in its autofocus capabilities, which we have already covered, and ergonomics, which we'll get to in a moment. If you are feeling limited by the subject recognition modes in your A1, this is probably the best reason to update your camera. The A1 only has human AF in stills and video mode and animal bird AF in stills mode only. Finally, another update they've made to the camera is the body itself, so let's take a closer look at that. The A1 II shares the same body as the A9 III. I have the cage for the A9 III, and the first thing I did when I opened the A1 II is try the cage on, and it's a perfect fit. I personally really enjoy using the A9 III. It's extremely comfortable to hold and use, so it's great to see they've gone for the same body design with the A1 II. The menu, settings, and customization options have all been brought up to the latest versions now in this camera body. I am so happy to see the new tilt and flip screen. In my opinion, every professional camera needs this screen for maximum versatility. The A1 II also shares the same viewfinder as the A9 III. Speaking of viewfinders, they've introduced this new deeper viewfinder eye cup, which will fit on a lot of Sony camera bodies because I also tried it out on my A7 IV. There is also a new USB-C powered dual battery charger, which I am very happy to see too, and I will be picking up a couple of them for myself. Hunch over with your shoulders a little more. Yeah, that's pretty. While all the upgrades seem minor, it does bring this camera up to speed with the rest of Sony's lineup. The A1 II makes the A1 line feel modern again because in hindsight, the A1 was released at a bit of an awkward time. We had the A7R5 come out not too long afterwards with some features that felt like they should have been in the A1. Now we have the A1 II, which is in line with the A9 III in terms of features and ergonomics. Next, we have video specs. The A1 was pretty well spec'd out for video, so in that case, there are actually not too many updates here. Both the A1 and A1 II are able to film in up to 8K 30p and 4K 60p with no crop, as well as up to 4K 120p with a 10% crop. They both film in 10-bit 422 and support S-Log3 and S-Cinetone picture profiles. I am not a fan of how log is in its own menu now, but I'm guessing this is just how it's going to be moving forward. I would, at the very least, like to be able to assign turning log on and off to a shortcut button or in the function menu. Anyway, in terms of new additions for video, the A1 II has the ability to import LUTs and use monitor LUTs. Sony have also added in auto framing, which looks really nice in my opinion, even when you are using the large crop function. I have some examples here for you of all three modes so you can get an idea of the quality when it's cropping the video for auto framing. The reason it is looking really good is because it's making use of the 8K sensor. The A1 II now includes Dynamic Active Steady Shot, which induces a bit of a crop, but in my opinion is very useful and looks very smooth. If you have a flippy screen, I'm going to do a vlogging test. I don't make the rules around here. So I've currently got the A1 II on a Joby, got my arm outstretched. I'm using the 16 to 35 f2.8 GM2. I love this lens for vlogging. I'm on the 16mm end with standard steady shot switched on so you can see what that looks like. Next up, I have active steady shot for you. I'm going to hold the camera and walk in the exact same way. I am filming in log right now, by the way, and I'm color grading it with my own Rec 709 conversion light. So the autofocus tests were in standard picture profile and this is in log. And last but not least, I have a dynamic active. So this crops in quite a lot. As you can see, I'm still at 16mm, still holding my arm outright, and it is a bit more cropped in. But at 16mm, I think that's still pretty good for vlogging. Like you can see a lot behind me. Also, this is really testing out my arm strength. So right now you're listening to the lav mic, and now I'm gonna switch over to the internal microphone of the A1 II and just talk a little bit so you can get a feel for what that sounds like. I've got noise reduction switched off right now. There is a little bit of a breeze at the moment. You can see my hair moving a little bit in that breeze, and there is a bit of traffic noise because we always do these microphone tests in the exact same spot all the time. And now I've got wind noise reduction switched on. So we'll take a listen to that and see if it sounds any different, if my voice sounds weird or not. We've got some birds like chirping in the distance as well, and now the traffic's picking up again in the background. So yeah, talk a little bit and you can hear what that sounds like. Chirp, chirp, chirp. So to summarize, IBIS is pretty much the main upgrade for video in the A1 II. Frame rates, resolution, and codecs all remain the same from the A1. Finally, I have a low light test with all the ISOs available to use in this camera. I did quite a few different tests, first with just the A1 II. I took a set of photos with noise reduction set to normal and another set with it switched off. I then took comparison photos of the A1 II versus A1, again with noise reduction set to normal and off. So here are all those photos side by side for you to look at. Again, just in case you haven't already, please make sure you're watching in 4K so you can see all the details. In terms of dual gain in video, there has also been a slight change. Previously, base ISO in S-Log3 on the A1 was 800 and 4000. Now on the A1 II, it's 800 and 5000. I did notice that noise in higher ISOs in video looks cleaner on the A1 II as well, but I don't have any comparisons to share, so you can only take my word for it. While it's the same sensor, it's really easy to see side by side here that the colors straight out of camera are slightly different to each other. In terms of low light, the A1 II retains slightly more sharpness in the mid-range ISOs, which is really nice to see. It's also interesting that even though I had the exact same aperture, shutter speed, and ISO for each image, the extended ISO range of the A1 II is much brighter, so they have made some improvements there. That is all I have for today's review of the Sony A1 II. Let me know what you think of the camera body, which ones were your favorite photos down in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time.